Hello and welcome. This is very exciting. Today I have a very special guest with me, John Binney, and we are going to be talking about my brand new service, Live Your Fantastical Life. And this is really special today because John invited me to join his live stream of Heart Aligned Business Alchemy. He invited me to join that, and he beautifully opened up the space for me to, in real time, channel this new one-to-one service. So it felt even more special for John to be my first client for this service as well. So this is really exciting. And I believe I had a look at the date when your session was, and I think it was the 30th of January. So it's been about, no, it's been more than 5 weeks, about 5.5 weeks now. So there's been quite a decent amount of time for integration. So I'm really excited. Thank you for being here, and we'll dive into it in a moment. But would you just like to introduce yourself, first and foremost?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Chloe. Hi, I'm John Binney. I'm a spiritual psychic mentor in Scotland, and I I'd had some challenges about. I guess I'd like found. I thought I'd built my dream life for myself, right? And I thought I was living. In some respects, I thought I was living it, and then part of my soul was like, but I still feel imprisoned. My mind had imprisoned myself. My heart had imprisoned myself, and I was didn't know why I was doing this, what was holding me back, and what I wanted to step into. Like what could be better? What could be better than almost 2 years now working for myself since leaving my corporate job and doing psychic quantum energy healing and readings for people around the world, living what I believe to be my dream life. And yet there I was each day. Often in this studio, I did debate whether I do this video today in this studio, but I just find myself going in loops each day, like a comfort zone loop, right? I kind of almost felt like a concentric circle, so literally get up in the morning, go for a run, come back, do a client session, go back into the house, so I have to go outside, go back in, get some lunch, take the dog for a walk, come back into the studio, do another client session, maybe have a quick break, then come back in, and then that would be it for the day. And then maybe at the weekends, I would be doing some traveling or something. But I was like, is this is it? This is what I've created? And no one else to blame, right? And so, yeah, I was definitely seeking something new, something I didn't know existed within me or my reality, or as a service that I could go to and ask for help. So, yeah, I was so delighted for this opportunity to come up.
Thank you. Isn't it so funny? I took away so much just from that introduction. It's so funny because I can really relate to this that we leave behind the matrix and leave behind the 9 to 5, and then we end up creating it for ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah,
We
absolutely.
create this funny prison for ourselves of like, right, I have to get up at this time and I have to do this and this and this and this. And
Yeah.
I do feel that the next step of that is actually finding a way to break free. Of course, consistency is so important, but finding a way of breaking free from that need to have that constraint around our schedule and be a bit more free flowing and fantastical whenever we can. So I
Yeah.
loved that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I thought maybe it's because I was under the belief that the constraints were external to me. I was so used to, latterly working at Amazon for 8 years, like just the corporate constraints around me, they felt like the matrix. And so when I left those, I thought I'd left the matrix, right? But they weren't outside of me, or they were also outside of me. The hardest ones to shift have been inside of me, and that they've lasted that long, I guess, 26 years and plus, even before that, indoctrinated in these societal constraints and the programs, what you should do, how you should dress, how you should talk, what sort of jobs you should do, how hard you should work, why you should be the sole provider for your family. Like, there's just a long list of all these things. And
Yeah.
yet, I guess I just carried those burdens into my new life, And then, but I'd been so used to it all my life, I didn't know what was still lurking in there and needed shaken up and faced.
Yeah, I feel you. I did a blog post recently about the same thing. It's like, why am I being the mean boss to myself that I never wanted? Where is the sense in that?
Yeah, me too.
So I will just share a little bit about the service and what it is at the moment as it stands. So the one-to-one Live Your Fantastical Life is at the moment a 90-minute session. And the reason why I allow that longer time frame rather than an hour is to not put I don't want it to feel rushed or constrained, as it is essentially an inner child healing. That really is the main intention of the service. Yes, live your fantastical life, but there are certain fears and certain programs within us that we have to face and confront in order to really be able to open our heart into that realm of joy and unrestrained happiness and fantasy and mystery and magic. So I feel that having that longer time frame just allows us to step in, and it gives us that time to breathe through maybe some of the more uncomfortable emotions and memories. So it's a journey. And out of all of my one-to-one services, I actually recommend this one as a live service rather than a recorded session. Both of those options are available, but I would recommend it because it's a beautiful way of going back and forth and actually giving the power to you as the client who's experiencing this for yourself, giving you the power to have that experience and really get that tangible, deep emotional experience. So I don't want to give away too much about the session because I do want it to be a surprise. I do like the element of surprise, but it's a journey through the body and into the heart, and we stop along the way, working with your guides, your higher self. And we stop along the way where we find areas of hidden trauma or emotions that are ready to be addressed. And then we travel into the heart and we enter through into your fantastical life. Maybe you would see this as the realm of your higher self. And we feel that experience and we see the colors and feel the energy, and we ask questions of how you can bring that magic and mystery back into your current reality. And then afterwards, I channel a painting and create that to represent the energy of your fantastical life. So it is really a whole service that has multi layers. So it really excites me, and it excites me because it's not just a quantum healing service. There's coaching in there, there's emotional healing, and then there's also the artwork to help with the integration and the activation of the codes afterwards. So now that I've explained this session in the best the way that I can, because I would say also that with all quantum healing work, I feel that with every client, it's a completely unique experience. And it can't be kept in a box and constrained. But sharing about the session, John, would you say it was what you were expecting? Was it a surprise? I'd love for you to just share kind of your initial experience of the session overall, and then we can dive a bit deeper.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's not. I share so much publicly in my life. It seems remarkable that I wouldn't share something like this, and yet it feels so sacred that the session isn't public, which I love. I didn't know what to expect really. In I didn't necessarily expect the hard work. I wasn't, although that was consciously, and my body and I describe like my psychic spidey senses were kind of building up in the couple of days before, saying, John, you're gonna face some fears. I was like, oh, am I? It's like, yes, that's part, like that's, if you want to get out of your prison, and really it's, I am my own prison guard, right? So it's like, I need to face myself, confront those aspects that are holding me captive and say, okay, like what are you? What needs to be seen? I would say the first of all, the session overall was is completely transformational, and I've through today, I'm sure I'll share lots of words and feelings, and it's quite difficult, right, to explain. I can give lots of examples. I can tell you how I feel. I can tell you what I experienced during the session. The session itself, almost immediately when we started, I felt like I was entering a whole new transformational phase in my life. And the very first thing I felt we were drawn into were a couple of areas of trauma in my younger life. So there was teenage years, and then there was also like teenage years, and then there was also much younger. Um, and when we faced those one at a time, I remember they were just so powerful and so gripping for me. And there was one thing, and I've said this many times, Chloe, about one of your superpowers is you just hold such wonderful space. It's so hard to describe that superpower in anything other than feeling completely safe, completely loved, and not judged in any way. And I very quickly felt like I did start what I describe as ugly crying, like I'm like, oh my God, and like this, and for a long time, right, and
The
all this
best crying.
is the best crying coming up, and you let me lead at points, and you also, when I can, kind of calm down a little bit, you'd like guide me to the next stage that I was ready for. I never felt rushed. I never felt like, um, because I didn't fully expect it. I didn't feel like you were even drawing me to the traumas. Like I took myself there as like, okay, these are the things I really need to face. One I knew about. One was new to me. One was new to my conscious mind. Um, and through those two separate facing of fears and healings, I didn't, and perhaps I still don't fully consciously, logically understand how they had created this prison guard for me. But what they had done is created a complete lack of safety, like a fear of safety. I didn't feel safe in myself. I didn't feel safe in who I was becoming,
Mm.
who I am already becoming, even at that point, and even more so since. And also constraints is quite interesting because there were both times in my life. One when I was kind of had just entered the system, the matrix. I'd just gone into schooling, and then the other was leaving that phase of schooling. But then I went through really turbulent years at the end of my teenage years and into early 20s before I kind of settled into my computing career. So that those stages were deeply transformational, lots of crying, lots of um, release, and so much just needs to be seen. I always feel that these traumas just need to be seen.
Yeah.
Yes, the kind words and the loving and the healing and integration you help me through are helpful, but the first thing is that just needed to be seen and to know that they're real. And all the time, you're just so encouraging because I felt permissioned. I felt like it's safe not only share this and that Chloe genuinely cares about what I'm going through, but also it's real. Like you said a few times, like this is real for you. It's like, yeah, you're right. It is like for the adult of me. It had continued to echo into my present.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I really appreciate that because I know that it was such a deep session and there were parts of that session that will remain private between you and I, probably till the day we pass. But I appreciate you sharing in this way because I feel like this is the most that you've shared about the session. And yeah, it was I think it took us both by surprise, and that was the beauty of it. And yeah, you're so right. It is real, and I feel that by us journeying to those parts of us in our childhood and re-acknowledging them as an adult, it's almost like what we wish that our parents always did, but
Yeah,
we
that's
are
right.
becoming that for
Hmm.
ourselves. And I really feel that on a grander scheme, even just, and I just love what you said about the acknowledgement being the most powerful part of it, because
Mm.
by acknowledging these parts of ourselves that we've locked away or avoided coming into contact with because of the pain that it carries, by acknowledging that within ourselves, we can then acknowledge that in others. And that really is a part of that unity consciousness and that expansion of our heart and our loving energy. So this is really what this is about. And I try to share this with as many people as possible, like when people are like, oh, shadow work. I'm like, yeah, it's uncomfortable and we don't want to admit these parts of ourselves, but as soon as we liberate the parts of ourselves that we're shameful of or we don't want to share with others, we are liberating everyone because we start seeing other people and understanding them with compassion.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
thank you for doing this work because I know that you're not only doing it for yourself, but you're doing it to create a more loving and compassionate reality as well. And that again is the beauty of this deep work, of this deep healing work. We are able to then relate to others in such a more deep and profound way.
yeah.
So it's not just selfish.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. And do if I don't say it, do remind me later to share some of
Mhm.
the change it's had on my family as well. Um, and yeah, if I one thing I did know from previous sessions with you is that you hold safety in such high regard. So energetic safety, emotional safety, never any fear of judgment, and you speak very publicly about the things that are so easy to judge about yourself, and it's very permissioning. I feel like I can turn up and share anything, and so in other words, I did feel no matter how hard the fear is to face, that I could do it safely, and
Mm.
that's often what how in our past, like how I didn't when I was younger, I didn't feel safe. Right? I didn't feel safe because when I did raise it with others, ridiculed or laughed at or just told not to just put up with it and not to talk about it. So yeah, that was just a beautiful experience. And there's something about the reflection of your session that reflects very deeply, like all aspects reflect what's happened since. And I also want to remember this part, right? Because all the kind of Instagrammable, the glory parts of my fantastical life are incredible. And then it there's definitely been a transformation on the darker aspects, the shadow aspects of me as well.
Oh, that's beautiful. And thank you for your kind words. I
Welcome.
think for anyone who watches this, I feel called to just share a little bit about how I prepare for these sessions and then how I guide them, because
Mm,
it might be quite hard for people to understand how we navigate through this. So obviously you shared your intentions with me and I'm going to let you share them in a moment
mm,
as I ask you to continue, but you shared your intentions with me and I think it was a few weeks after that and before you had your session. So I, yeah, you set your intentions and I feel into those. And I really allow myself to feel into the intentions of the client. And then usually a day or two before, as the time gets closer to the appointment, our energy starts getting closer. And I always take time before a session to sit down and start meditating and asking my guides to start assisting me. So I
mm,
usually, not always, but I usually start getting some hints and some guide points to the session and what is going to serve your highest and best good. So I kind of have that in mind, but then at the start of the session, I asked you, okay, these were your intentions. Are these still relevant, or is there anything you want to add or change? So you're always in the driver's seat as the client. And then especially with this service as we basically we work through the body and through the energy centers and I work with your guides and my guide but also you essentially as well and I get guided to certain areas. For you, it was very much sacral chakra, inner child healing, which is the main focus of this service. And then I will always ask you the questions. And this is what I love about this service. It's not going to be me guiding you to a past life, particularly. It will be me saying, okay, let's journey together to a place in your childhood where you have a specific memory. So it is this very back and forth, like I'm kind of holding your hand so that you can take me there. So it is, and I loved that you said the word trust, because this is very much like a trust building
Mhm.
service as well, and building trust within ourselves by me just basically being there and holding your hand through the journey.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of how it works. It is different. It's a lot more conversational, and we are holding each other essentially. I will hold you, and you'll just be talking me through it. And I like that with this. It's back and forth. It's more of a, I would say it's more of a coaching style than your typical quantum healing session.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Mm,
I felt when I visited, for instance, the youngest version of me, I felt like I turned up um in the home that I lived in at the time as my kind of future angel, and
mm,
so of myself. And you were right next to me. You were next to me at every place I visited, and there's always this really loving, caring energy, and someone looking out for you, so you're not just feeling like abandoned. And never at any point did I wonder, what do I do next? And equally, it wasn't like you say, this wasn't having to rely on your psychic abilities to tell me
mhm,
to share what was going on, or but I know that you could, if I'd stopped and said,
mhm.
I'm not ready to receive something, likely you would have said, that's fine. You don't need to do it right now. Or do you want help? Do you want me
Mhm.
to ask? Do you want me to help you experience this?
Yeah.
So that felt like a really good balance. And yeah, I feel when you're going, in particular in this lifetime, into your inner child and your sacral chakra, you're like, it's a very deep and personal, intimate thing, and you do want to lead it as much as you can.
Yeah. It's nice. Yeah, and because of trauma, it's really in the sacral chakra is where we have memories of trauma.
Hmm.
So actually, as someone who's holding the space to give the power back to you,
Yeah,
yeah, it can feel good because you don't want to feel like someone is taking your power away or forcing you into something, especially when we get into that real emotional center. Yeah, so thank you for mentioning that. And I wanted to then talk about, so it's kind of in two parts, the service, well, three parts if you include the integration. So
yeah,
once we go through the healing, and it's not going to be a whole lifetime's worth of trauma healing. It will
yeah,
be one or maximum two major life points that you are ready to just witness basically and
yeah.
feel. And then we come into the heart. And I'm going to let you describe this. So we take this journey, and we do the healing and clearing on the way, and we come to what I call the gateway
Mhm.
of the heart, or the gateway into your fantastical life. And I'd love you to describe this experience of entering into it, but also I'd love for you to describe the effect of entering into this doorway after having gone through that emotional healing, how that affected that journey for you, and then through stepping through and feeling that huge shift in in vibration.
Thank you. Yeah, and I must admit that in between bit, I suspect because I was going through a lot of the like integration healing part, until you actually mentioned that kind of segue, the gateway, the door, I'd I'd forgotten about it. And it's really funny because the start and the end of the session are the most dominant in my conscious
Mm,
mind. And yet that, as I was saying, that overall feeling of just the transformational aspects, like I know the whole thing was, I just, now that you've helped recall it, I describe it as finding that I felt that I was in this prison, right? And the thing that was holding me back was in part I didn't know the way out. I didn't know how to get out of the prison, and because I didn't know there was a door there. It's the funniest thing, and the funniest thing is because when you do this to yourself, right? Lightly, you came into this space, into this pattern, one way, and so it's also can be the way that you come out of it. And I felt some of the first things I felt at the time was just I felt like I let go of really heavy weights,
Mm.
and these were weights. It's like it's like holding really heavy baggage or like two suitcases of kettlebells or something, like really heavy, and like wow, it's so heavy. And then to know that as soon as you open the door, you're gonna have to run. And
Mhm.
so you're like, not with these. I'm not going to run with the kettlebells. Like it's like not with all those deep dark memories. I can't do it.
Mhm.
And I had a fear, a projected fear previously about who I'd become on the other side, and and it's true, I wasn't ready to receive those parts of me. And one of the kind of key red flags for me is that every time I did a future life session where I'd go and visit in a meditation, I'd raise my vibration, step into my future realities. They always seem the same and a little bit lackluster, as like I'd be a guy sat in like a chair in some woods with some lovely people around him, and they're all doing lovely things. And I was like, it felt lovely and it felt very joyous, but I could never figure out why it was always the same. Maybe I just assumed it's like, well, do it every 3 months, get the same answer. It just felt like my soul wants more than that future, that timeline. So perhaps that was the version of me that stayed in my little prison and carried the kettlebells running through the fields of joy, like, oh, it's so heavy, but I'm so joyous. Um, so yeah, I don't have like clear conscious memories of the door, but other than it
Mhm.
was a door, right? That I
Yeah.
stepped through.
Hmm.
Um, and I just remember starting to feel the excitement, starting to feel, when I feel inner child healing has this effect, right? It's like the child of you starts to come alive immediately, right? Even though you've just gone through facing traumas and hugging, like squeezing the uh, little John as much as I could and help with that healing. I felt there's this anticipation. It's like
Mm.
I'm ready. Whatever's on the other side of this door, I'm ready. It must be fantastical. Whatever that means to me. Um, and there's as an adult, and what I love so much about the fantastical word is that it's so hard to explain to another adult because does not conform to logic, right?
No.
It does not conform to reality as we would know it.
Mm-mm.
And I can feel this energy like bursting up in my top of my heart chakra just now, like getting ready to burst and explode and share. And it's like this. So that's how it felt with the door. It felt like I'm now living a fantasy. This is,
Mhm.
if I could step into Lord of the Rings, this is how it would feel like waking up in that universe. It's as real when we're watching these. Often when we're watching or reading or whatever we're doing and engaging with fancy, our consciousness feels it's real, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that's how it felt. Do you want me to talk a bit about what happened on the other side of the door?
Sure.
So, first of all, as I stepped through the door, the first thing that hit me, and this is so much more important than any of the details, and I know as a human, and probably if for those that are watching this, probably want to know what are all the things you experienced. It's the feeling first and foremost, and it's that feeling on the other side of the door that I continue to feel right now. I can feel it pushing up in my heart, um, and I felt as I stepped forwards, I stepped into some kind of like field, but there were also like some wooded areas nearby, or was just like in a little grassy area before I stepped into it. Um, and so there's very vivid colors that I was met with. and then this lovely feeling in my heart. And I can only describe a very high vibration, happy, joyful feeling. Um, and a feeling that perhaps I've experienced from time to time um, in my life so far, in that it didn't feel unattainable. That joy did not feel unattainable. It did not feel separate. It felt suddenly like the feeling was on the other side of the door, and I just stepped into my heart, and my heart had just like stepped into the feeling. And it's like, yes, that's what was waiting on the other side of the door, was that feeling. And so I stepped into it and I was holding it. And I remember holding my heart. It's like, I just remember thinking, I want to hold this feeling forever. I want to hold this fantastical feeling. And I was kind of curious about what, because we were stepping into a kind of future of me and what this future version of me would be doing. And I remember like walking through some woods, and the woods felt a little bit familiar, but they kind of phase between different places that are both nearby and then maybe in different countries as well.
Hmm.
That is more than, in other words, more than one location. And what I saw was a group of people. They were kind of down by a little riverside at a flattened area, surrounded by woodlands, with some clearings. Like they're in a little clearing, and they'd already started whatever they were doing. They were doing some kind of meditation together. I think there was also some energy work they were doing as well.
Singing
And
bowls. I
yes,
remember
that's right.
that.
Yeah, seeing bowls. And I felt, I felt, I felt so humbled to be welcomed to what is very clearly a sacred space.
Mhm.
Especially when you start something, right? Usually it kind of closes down to
Mhm.
outside noise and interference. And I felt very welcomed by these people. And I didn't feel I knew everyone. I did know who was leading, or there was maybe more than one person that was leading it. Um, and then as I got closer to them, I walked down and joined them. I sat at the back, and I remember what I was wearing was really different. I I was wearing white clothes with a black hood. I think my hood was up, and everything on the outside of me was black. So you would just look at me and think this person's wearing black, which also felt unusual to be maybe walking up to like a sound bath or meditation or some healing session that was going on in the woods, that I was kind of creeping around at the back, all in black, and then like turning up. And yet, as I got closer, I realized how significant my role was, and I felt when I entered the space and I sat down with the group, I began to see, and I'm sure you can help me, Chloe, with some of my conscious memories. I began to see the energy like flowing within people. I could see their chakras. It didn't feel like I had permission, which was important. They were kind of expecting me that I may or may not come by. So maybe I would, maybe they were in a retreat and I was like in and out for one of the sessions in a day. So it's no surprise to them. They weren't really interested in me. There was no kind of feeling of like, oh, I'm so glad John's here. There was just like, there's no neediness, just like I felt very additive.
Mhm.
And then when I sat there and I was seeing the energy flowing through them, I felt that I could help support the unity energy of the group and help
Mhm.
cultivate their energy. And in part, it felt there was some aspects that I was perhaps helping guide some of it. Didn't feel like any kind of assessment, right? It wasn't like I wouldn't have a little clipboard or anything. I wasn't like taking notes. Um, and then I just remember this joy. I was quite astounded at my psychic abilities. That was really different to what I experience now. Far more like same things, but much brighter, much more, much greater clarity. And I just remember sitting with them all, feeling so truly blessed and feeling a little bit like it's my job, but it's not my job because it doesn't feel like work, and that I could continue to do this work while I have a body as a human, and even after we would know as death of our human forms, that I would continue on. I'd still keep visiting. They would just need to ask me to come in, and I'd pop in. And there was something very significant about the darkness on the dark clothes on the outside was all about me, um, you know, walking with my darkness, like clearly demonstrating it, and then revealing the light within me whenever I sat down. I'd take my hood off, um, and yeah, what else did I miss?
Yeah, I think, I love what you said about the dark and the light, because that was such a beautiful symbolism. And I really love it when things come in such simple form.
Yeah.
And for me, that has been like one of the main memories of the session for you. It's just that
Mhm.
beautiful sign of balance. And I loved how you described it, that your energy and the way that you interacted with the group. And it's almost like we both felt that we were stepping into like the new earth, if
Yeah.
you like to call it that. It was,
Yeah.
we were stepping into that, and it was like, oh my gosh, this can actually be a reality for us, where all humans are working together in harmony with these really expansive psychic abilities, and we're communicating telepathically and through the energy of our hearts. It was such a magical experience. And I'm going to come back to this, but I kind of want us to backtrack a little bit. And
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. That was amazing. And I'm getting a little bit teary actually
Oh.
remembering it, because it was so beautiful. Because we've gone over your journey through the whole session now,
Yeah.
and I actually think we've done a pretty good job at
Yeah, I think so.
describing it,
Yeah.
even though it was such an expansive journey to go through. What I would love to do is kind of take it back now, and come to sort of the flip side, the human side of the integration.
Yeah.
And I'd love for you, in your words of how you can remember what your intentions were and how they have unfolded, and a little bit about the transformation that you've gone through over the past 5+ weeks, and where you're at now. And then we can go back and reflect on the fantastical life, to what how that reflects now and what it means for you moving forwards.
Excellent. I don't remember exactly what I wrote down or told you. I for my intentions for the session, consciously, I would now describe it as wanting to like break free from some sort of prison like patterns that I'd put myself in. Um, I hadn't traveled in my camper van, which I loved doing, for about 2 or 3 months prior to this. Um, I'd been just it felt that feeling of like the concentric circles. Like my safety zone was like getting comfort zone was getting smaller and smaller, and it's like, why are you doing this, John? And I knew that's what I wanted to break out of, and I wanted my life to be fantastical. I had no idea what it meant, and in many respects, I loved that because you're never going to know. Right? I think that's the point of a fantastical life, is you'll never really know what the end result is, if you like.
No.
Um, and what I did know from the session that we did, that some significant changes had happened within me. So there was the inner child aspects had like flipped, and then it also got this like very very different future life experience. And I can only, although we described the scene and we described the interactions I had, the feelings were so different. They're like this. It's like joy rather than like this. Like you're joyful like you're a fantastical life. And I was like, that's a feeling that my soul's hungry for. What changed? Oh, there's just so many things that changed after the session. Um, I started, because you never said this to me, but I started asking myself, how do I make now fantastical? What
Mm.
would fantastical John, that version of me that I met, what would fantastical John be doing? How do I make now fantastical? And it's a whole breadth of things. I did so many things. So some of these things I had lined up, and then I took like a boulder leap, right? So one thing is, I went traveling. In fact, I visited you down in Oxfordshire, and I remember even the simplest things, right? It was like for the length of time I was visiting, the places I'd chosen to go, for the things I'd chosen to do, I then had a conversation with my wife, which was very much like I didn't feel apologetic in any way. You know, I just said, this is fantastic. I didn't quite use the words yet. It was like, I felt like this is my fantastical life. Let me see. You know, my wife and I spend a huge amount of time together. Um, and I spend a lot of time with Patch, my dog. And I was asking her, would it be okay if she looked after Patch? We had a chat about it because I look after him most of the time. And it felt really balanced and felt really good. And I was like, well, I don't need to fear like putting on others too much. This is,
Hmm.
I have the time, the money, the space. Do it, John. I remember there was the first couple of days of that journey was fantastic. Like driving overnight. We'd met up for a couple of days in a campsite I'd never been to and explored. That was fantastical. I really love those adventures. And then I had a day by myself, and that was fantastical because I was like, I hadn't had a day like without Patch. I love him dearly, just at my feet just now. I hadn't had that space, and I did some walks, and I did, and some of the time I just spent doing nothing, and that felt fantastical. It was just like these are very new to me, um, and then I went into. I had booked myself into this is one of my fears was presenting. Sorry, in part presenting was interviewing people in public on camera. I was really terrified of it. I don't know quite what the fear was. If it did feel a bit like I was like just showing up with like 4 or 5 year old John and saying, "Go on," like pushing him out into a crowd. Go on, go and talk to those adults. Ask them a bunch of questions on camera. Um, and so I booked myself in for a day at a motorhome show in Birmingham, and was all huge. It was a massive event, five halls, thousands of people, and I'd because of my YouTube channel, I'd applied for. I thought, I know, I'll just apply for press pass. That would be fantastic, right? To be a member of the press. I didn't even really know what I got. I didn't even know if I got a free ticket as a result of getting it. I had to ask when it turned up, and I remember the first person I met was a tarot reader who served me a coffee, and she's like, tell me like all the things you do, and was asking me all about energy protection and stuff, and it's like, wow, this is great. This is not what I expected at a motorhome show. And then within minutes, I met two YouTubers who my wife and I watch a lot, and I interviewed them, and it was so funny because they were so nervous before they went on camera. And I was like, that's how I feel when not, I must admit, this is my comfort zone now. I did not feel nervous at
Yeah.
all when, before I came on with you, and still don't. So I ended up seeing three, four, interviewing 3 or 4 YouTubers and then other real people, right? So just some people, members of the public, some people that were at stands, and it's like it got so much easier. And the biggest thing for me was seeing others
Hmm.
like struggle, adults my age, like going, "Oh, I have to go on camera now. What do I say?" It's like just say hello. Just like it's YouTube. You just say what you want, right? So that was huge. I remember feeling so expansive afterwards. And then, um, I could have. So the next thing I could have done that night, because I was exhausted, I could have then just driven up to my next destination. Destination was actually meeting my family, um, but I didn't. I chose to stop off at the Devil's Arrows, these giant standing stones in Yorkshire, and I stayed overnight nearby. And so I got to film them in the morning, and it just felt. I was like, "This is so small, John. It's just." And because I was scared of staying in a new car park in the middle. I know I'd be tired. I'd turn up late at night, and I was asking my body, "Do I have the energy for this? Am I pushing myself too hard?" My body's like, "We can do it, but remember, you promised 3 days of rest on your holiday, so it's okay to just push yourself the night before, right? That's fine." I'd done the whole deal with my body, and it just felt so expansive to do that. Then I had a great holiday with my family. And also like I could see some reflections. Like my wife in particular keeps saying to me, you like seeing like spooky places and castles and like there's a Roman settlement, like a 2,000-year-old Roman settlement just down the road. Do you want to go there and I'll look after Patch for an hour? You can do a video and stuff. And I was like, you're becoming fantastical too, or at very least for me, you are,
Yay!
which was phenomenal. And oh, there's just so many things that then happened afterwards, including I did a paranormal investigation for the first time. I remember even before that, that investigation with my friend Lisa, we were walking through a very busy public park on the other side of Scotland, hugging trees and psychically talking to trees in front of lots of people. And we got some really interesting looks. But it honestly, it took me about 30 minutes into it to realize that I used to be scared of that.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, that is mind blowing for me. And then I was like, who cares? Like, because some people kept walking past us several times. And it's like, I think you're checking us out. And I'm like, that's okay too. Um, and then since then, I've also found opportunities to like book more adventures, right? So
Mhm.
I've got a trip to Skye, the Isle of Skye, the magical Isle of Skye, coming up in April. Another, I've just booked it at the end of April. Another paranormal investigation in Stirling, which I'm really excited for. And these are not things that you would expect would be fantastical in John's life, right? But I love adventures. I love traveling. I love trying new things. Isle of Skye has so much magic, and yet it is a nightmare for driving motorhomes through, right? So that was always a fear as well. It's like, well, just go with that and go through that experience, see what that really feels like. Is it really that bad? Usually these fears aren't, right? And same with the paranormal investigation. If anything, I felt a little bit, I said this term in the video, I felt a bit like a wolf stepping into a sheep's pen. Like I've been doing this work for years, including entity removals and exorcisms and home clearing. So when I step into, and also my friend Lisa, when we step into we're trying to talk very nicely to these ghosts and spirits, and they're a bit like, who the hell are you guys? Like, oh, you're quite different in energy. And it's like, I know, but we're here to be respectful, and we're here to say hello. So that was really eye opening as well. And then also, and you shared this in one of your fantastical videos, maybe yesterday, Chloe, was about some of the kind of darker sides to it too. Like, well, what about the moments where so someone might be watching this thinking, how can John afford all the time off, right? And all the adventures? It it doesn't make logical sense, but the last 2 months, January and February, have been some of my financially best months in my business. And you couldn't I don't and what I love is that it's, for example, the paranormal investigation or the travel adventures I did down in Oxfordshire and Yorkshire, etc., they weren't like directly coupled with income, right? They
Mhm.
weren't. You couldn't say, "Oh, that one got loads of views, that one got lots of, monetization or donations or something." Well, what happened is a shift in me because I'm doing these things as well, and it does definitely raise my vibration. And I've also noticed that in my client sessions, I just got another email today, a big shift. Because when I
Mm.
turn up now, it's not like imprisoned John that's has imprisoned himself. It's John who's been back from an adventure and has had plenty of rest. I was shocked this morning when I woke up, a Wednesday morning, and I felt so energized. And I was kind of like, I almost feel a little bit bored. And it's like
Yeah.
the day's just started. And it's like, and I've got loads of things lined up for today, but that almost a little bit of excess energy, which
Mhm.
I've been so used to decades of burnout that was quite shocking to me. I've actually had Monday morning off, Tuesday morning off, and I couldn't have quite survived a Wednesday morning off. I would have been doing more. And yeah, in some of those darker moments, you know, it's really helped me bring a voice to some of these fears as well.
Mhm.
Like fear of speaking in public, fear of facing others, of filming and interviewing others in person, doing more in person things, just going to places that are riskier in my mind. Um, And then when some of my own fears and shadows come up in my own, awareness and regular practices, that they start to have a little bit more excitement to them. Because I just this morning I was walking past the forest, and the forest, because I don't go in there much because it's right next to a busy road, and the woods just said, why don't you come in? Why don't you come in and say hello? We're all every morning. They're like, come in, come in, come in, say hello to the trees. And I'm like, I'm just going to walk patch. And then I just said to them this morning, I said, actually, it's because I'm scared.
Mm.
I'm scared because when I go in there, there's tons of other dogs off the lead, and patch just isn't great around them. And they were showing me, and they're like, what dogs? There's none here. There's none. And they said, just pay attention to the time, pay attention to when you're going, and just come in, even if it's just a little bit. And so since I'd started that conversation with myself, it's like, yes, John, it is a fear.
Mm.
It felt so much easier to just, start a little bit of an incremental discussion about, okay, yes, I can do it. I can face that. Um, there's so many other things. More, I've created more space in my life, more space in my calendar. Um, Financially, it's been so abundant, incredibly, like, it logically doesn't make sense. I remember trying to explain this to my accountant, was shocked at my monthly
It's
reviews. It's
fantastical.
fantastical. And then my wife was like scratching her head, like, tell me again, right? So you're doing less work and you're earning more money. And it's like, yes. And some of these things you just can't quite figure out. But the one indicator I notice is that I've now booked out, just as of now, about 5 months in advance.
Mhm.
And sometimes, like, just with my client yesterday, was like, I felt a little bit bad. So I'm like, I'm sorry you have to wait 5 months to your next session. And then I felt, but this is, if you want this fantastical John to turn up
Mhm.
to your sessions, and not the imprisoned version of myself who's always worried about not having enough and stays in a little comfort zone, then you'll definitely love the wait. And personally, when I remember when I first went on your Fantastical Life session, Chloe, I felt like, I think that's it. I never want to do one again. I think this has already, my life changed. And now, just a few weeks later, I'm like, you know what? um, Things can always get more fantastical in every moment. And sometimes it's the smallest things I know my diet's changed as well. It's another thing. But sometimes it's really small things, and sometimes they're the bigger adventures too.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. A few little things I want to pick up on before we start to wrap this up. But I love what you said, because you mentioned about, a very subtle increase in your self-awareness, and I think that's beautiful. I feel like if I could give that to any of my clients, that would be really high up the list. A deeper level of self-awareness, especially around your shadows and your fears. I love that, because people often think of shadows as like these really scary, traumatic events. But actually, the most powerful shadows are those real little thoughts that stop you from doing day-to-day things. So I love that you noted about your self-awareness around those now, and that's amazing. And like you said, the more that we expand, and then the more self-aware we come, then we're like, I can actually expand more. Oh, hang on a minute. There's something that I need to go and heal now. So it's like this beautiful, and then that's why I like the chakra spiral, because it's a spiral in, and then a spiral out, and then a spiral in, this ever expanding, ever unfolding journey. So I loved that. And I really wanted to acknowledge what you said about the motorhome show, because it really just like lit up my heart, because I remember clearly, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but one of your intentions that I was guided, that was one of the most important ones, and that's going to be the most important part of your journey of integration, was that you wanted to come out of hermit mode and
Mm.
be more sociable, John.
Yeah, that's right.
And something really like shone for me about that. and it's like you've exploded into adventure mode.
That's right.
And it's so beautiful to see. And what you were sharing about the motorhome show, oh, it was so juicy because what were talking about earlier when you were talking about the inner child healing, about acknowledging those parts of little John that felt sad or scared or misunderstood or not heard. Because you witnessed that in yourself, you then witnessed these other adults at the motorhome show, and
That's right.
you saw them in their fear and their nervousness, and you actually witnessed that. And I think that's so beautiful, where we just see each other as humans, as souls, of course, but also just in our humanness. So I don't know, that just felt really special to me.
Oh,
So thank you for sharing that. And I have in front of me, just as the last few
oh yes.
minutes before we wrap up, the painting
Yes.
of your fantastical life. So when I channel these paintings, I set up a safe space, and I've already asked permission to connect with your guides to channel in this energy, and I channel the energy that is going to represent like the activation of your fantastical self or your fantastical life. So I never know what's going to come through. I never know what it's going to be. And this was yours. Hopefully it's going to show. Maybe if I come
Yeah,
back a
I
little
can
bit. There we
see.
go.
Yeah.
Zoom is a bit funny.
Wow.
Um, Yeah, and I mean, I do obviously offer sending the physical copy, but you said that you don't have the space to accept anything more, any more clutter in your life. So I just
That's
sent
right.
you the digital version. But when we met up in person, you actually got
Yeah,
to
I got to
feel
touch it. That's
like
right. Yeah.
tangibly touch it, because it's acrylic paint, so it's essentially quite 3D, and it's plastic in nature.
Yeah.
So you got to see it and feel it. So just as the last the last few minutes. What was that like?
So when I first saw it, I was shocked.
Yeah.
I was like, who is this? And because and the appearance is so stark, right? Initially
Mm.
the eyes were the things that really kind of caught me, and then it's like, oh, but you know, I started to process it, right? I started to process what for me was quite a shocking visual and such a contrast to who I had been before the session. If you'd shown me that and I'd never had the session, I would have no association with that picture. And now, and it's the funniest thing because I don't know if I'm ever have going to look exactly like that.
No.
If I'm ever going to have that on my face, and it's but what's or maybe contact lenses, or if my eyes will change, like um, David Bowie. There's like what what that that vision is to me is fantastical, John, because that version of me doesn't care about what other people think about how he looks, doesn't care about anything other than his own exploration, his own fantastical life. And there's these deep and powerful meanings, even the long hair. It's like, and I did wonder for today's video, like, should I put on a hood? Should I dress up? And it did actually encourage me to dress up. Seeing him encouraged me to dress up in my kilt for my monthly reflections, which was such fun. And yeah, I I feel much more open now as a result of seeing this version of me, and also accepting that it is me. That there's likely a timeline, and it might even be this one where I look more and more like that. And I feel that the way we dress, I've started to realize how significant that is as well,
Mm.
um, because it's that resonance energy from us, right? We're saying this is what I choose to filter about myself, or this is how I choose to amplify what's in myself. How I choose to, when I look in the mirror, who I choose to see back. There's such power and meaning in what we wear, and yeah, I do know that there's um, somewhere in the universe there is a hoodie, a cloak that's waiting for me, and I'm
Yeah.
so tempted to just go out and buy it, and I'm like, no, it's like it's gonna find its way to me, and you might first see it appear in like psychic tree talk, and that was the other thing. It's like I don't have to wear this all the time. I just
Hmm.
have to start expressing myself more and be more fantastical, more minutes, more hours of the day.
Yay. I can't wait for you to get your cloak.
Yes.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. I love what you said because yeah, it's not the way we dress and the way we, show up in the world. It's releasing ourselves from the chains of identity and actually choosing it as a way of expression. And being like a chameleon where we can change and we can flow and express ourselves in magical ways. Like when I was a child, one of my favorite activities was going in the fancy dress box and dressing up. And that's what the fantastical life is about. It's not saying we have to suddenly wake up one day and wear like knight's armor. But there might be an occasion where we could go out with a sword and feel like a badass. It's shifting the perspective on expression.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I love that you were slightly triggered by the painting because you're like, oh, this is like more expansive than I feel at the moment. And that's the point. It's meant to activate you sort of beyond the limit of your humanness into a more fantastical self.
yeah, definitely.
Oh, so
Because
thank you so much.
I don't know if this will show up. I don't know. I guess there is a kind of contrast to that fantastical self. Let me just show you. I don't know if it shows up on camera. Can you see that? So that guy there,
Yeah.
he's on. It's so whoops. It's me. This is like a vision board thing I did, and it's me on a roller coaster, and it's basically just me, right, wearing a black t-shirt and blue jeans, and I'm like, okay, the roller coaster is fantastic and really exciting, but um, there's that expression was a bit kind of lackluster. It was like I hadn't really paid much attention to it, and now I keep being reminded by your beautiful paintings, like John, like be yourself, express yourself, explore more, and so
Yeah,
I shall
sometimes we have to push the boundaries of the limitations of our comfort zone to really step into that fantastical life.
definitely.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much. And I would
Thank
just
you.
love to ask you, would you recommend this session?
Yes, yes, do it. Wow. And you know what's really funny? I wondered what people might think of. So many people would look at my life and say, "John, your life's already fantastical. You know, you're living this dream life. But there was so many things that I'd swapped, like one prison for another. I was still getting up at the same time in the mornings. Now, at very least once a week, there's no alarm set. I'd be doing the same things every day. Now every day is much more different. I was working too hard, and now it's like now there's greater periods, concentrated periods of rest, receiving, and also adventures, and planning adventures is a new hobby as well. And like those transformations, you're not going to know what lies outside of that prison until you book Chloe. So I highly recommend booking Chloe and experiencing truly, if you'd offered this 2 years ago, when I was still in my corporate job, it might have been a harder leap for me, but I would absolutely been up for it because um, you help me break through some of what feels like the last remaining constraints I place upon myself. And I'll definitely book you again because I want to make sure that that's true. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. And it's an honor to be with you on this transformation as well, and for all the hard work that you do on yourself. It just reflects in what you give to the world and you give to so many souls on your journey and your mission. It's just beautiful to witness. So
Oh, thank you.
thank you so much. And anyone who's watching this, please do give John a follow, and all of his details will be linked in this. And if you are interested in exploring your one-to-one Live Your Fantastical Life offering, please go to mystichearts.org/fantasy. I kept it nice and simple for you.
Yes. And I really love the thumbnail of your service as well. It's so
Mhm.
perfect, especially the little inner child in the door opening. It's like, that was me. That's what happened to me.
Yay! Thank you. Oh, thank you so much, John. I really appreciate your time.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, it's been amazing having this conversation. I've been like so excited to have this conversation. So thank you so much. And I'll see you again soon.
Thank you. Thank you.